When Nora woke up that morning, she had no idea that being arrested by the police was going to save her life. This is African Folktales with Nsinem. Nora was one of those people who could easily be described as naive, but she preferred to think of herself as kind and forgiving. I will leave you to judge that for yourself after you hear her story. Nora and Benita were childhood friends. Nora loved Benita to a fault. Nora came from a wealthy family, but tragedy struck when both her parents died in a plane crash. She was raised by her strict maternal grandmother, Rita. Though Nora grew up surrounded by luxury, she was painfully lonely, so her friendship with Benita became everything to her. They had first met on an ordinary afternoon when Nora's driver almost knocked Benita down while trying to avoid a pothole on the road. Benita was injured and the driver rushed her to the hospital. That accident marked the beginning of Nora's troubles, though at the time she had no idea. When Nora later went with her grandmother to check on Benita, she discovered something surprising. Benita lived very close to them. Her mother worked as a maid, and Benita, her mother, and 5 of her siblings lived in the boys' quarters of her mother's employer's compound.
After that day, Nora began visiting Benita alone. She found their small, cozy living space strangely comforting, more comforting than her grandmother's large, silent mansion. Soon, Nora started taking foodstuffs from her grandmother's pantry. Every time she visited, bags of rice, cooking oil, noodles, and other groceries, just to help Benita's family. But the housekeeper noticed, and she reported everything to Rita.
One day, Nora went out as usual to visit Benita. Her grandmother had traveled for a week and was supposed to return the following week. But when Nora came back home, she froze. Her grandmother had returned earlier than expected. Rita called Nora and sat her down. She told her gently that she was not against her making friends, but that Benita and her family were bad news. Nora listened, but she did not obey, because the moment her grandmother drove out of the compound again, Nora packed a bag full of groceries and walked straight back to Benita's house, and very soon she would wish she had listened. Their friendship did not end there. In fact, it blossomed even more, right into their university days. By then, Nora had become Benita's lifeline. Nora paid Benita's school fees, bought her books, and often sent her money, and she did it happily, until the day they had their very first serious fight. One afternoon, Nora and Benita went to the market to buy groceries for Benita to take back to school. Normally, Nora's shopping was done by her grandmother's housekeeper, but that day she decided to go with Benita herself. As they weaved through the noisy market, a man selling thrift jeans suddenly grabbed Benita by the wrist. He refused to let go. He insisted that she must check his wares. Benita felt insulted, and in anger, she slapped him. The man slapped her back. In seconds, a fight broke out. People screamed, stalls shook, dust filled the air. Nora froze. She wasn't street smart. She wasn't used to shouting or throwing punches. So she stood there screaming for help, begging people to intervene. Before long, passers-by rushed in and separated the fight. But Benita was not grateful. She was furious, not just at the jeans seller, but at Nora. She accused Nora of abandoning her, of standing there like a rich girl while she fought alone. The shopping ended abruptly. Benita stormed home in anger. Nora went home confused and deeply hurt. She had no one to talk to, except her boyfriend, and that conversation opened another can of worms that Nora was not prepared for. Nora's boyfriend, Zenith, invited the 2 friends to his house to settle the misunderstanding. He listened to both sides patiently. He calmed them down, and eventually the 2 friends made up. To celebrate, Zenith brought out a bottle of wine. He ordered fried chicken. Laughter slowly filled the room again. For a moment, everything felt normal, but the celebration was short-lived. Nora's grandmother called her and asked her to return home immediately. When Nora stood up to leave, she asked Benita to come along with her, but Benita declined. She said she wanted to stay a little longer to finish eating and drinking, so Nora left alone.
Let me ask you this. Would you leave your best friend alone in your boyfriend's house? Tell me in the comments. And while you're there,
Like this video and subscribe if you haven't. I share powerful African tales like this on my channel. Back to the story. The two friends continued being best friends, but something had quietly changed. Not between Nora and Benita, but between Nora and Zenith. Nora couldn't explain it, but she could feel it. Zenith became distant. He became busy, too busy to pick her calls, too busy to return her messages. Whenever Nora visited his house, he was never around, or at least that was what his gateman always told her. And slowly, Nora began to feel like a stranger in her own relationship. One day, Nora visited Benita at her hostel to complain about her boyfriend Zenith that was ghosting her. Benita assured her friend that she was going to talk to Zenith on her behalf. Benita then excused to go make noodles for her friend, and while Benita was in her kitchen, Nora decided to use Benita's phone to call Zenith to see if he would take her calls, because for about 2 days, Zenith wasn't taking her calls. The first thing that shocked her was the fact that Benita had Zenith's number. Zenith didn't take the call. Nora dropped her friend's phone back, and seconds after, Benita's phone beeped. It was a text from Zenith.
I thought you said you wouldn't call me till I have been able to talk to Nora and tell her what happened.
Nora's mouth fell open. The same question that is on your lips right now was also on Nora's lips. What happened? What the heck happened between Benita and Zenith? Nora scrolled through their messages and read more. Nora's mouth fell right to the floor. Not because they had been chatting for weeks, but because Benita and Zenith had been intimate that night, she had left the two of them together alone at his apartment. But by the time Benita came out of the kitchen, Nora was weeping intensely. How could you, was all Nora was able to say. She tossed Benita's phone on the bed and walked out. Days after, Zenith pleaded with her to come over to his house, that they needed to talk. Nora went, and there Benita was already waiting. They both begged for Nora's forgiveness, saying it was the alcohol, that they would never betray her in their right senses. And she believed them. Everything went back to normal until months after. One cool afternoon, Nora was in her apartment when a lady called and warned Nora to stay away from her man, Zenith. Nora was confused. She immediately called Zenith to tell him what a lady just told him, and the same lady picked the phone and went ahead to abuse Nora.
She said so much and ended with telling Nora to get some self-respect and stop running after a man.
Nora was taken completely by surprise. Herself and Zenith didn't have any issues, so what she was experiencing was shocking and even funny. Nora jumped into her car and went over to Zenith's house to collect the worst embarrassment of her life. Right in her boyfriend's house was another woman wearing his shirt with her mouth running like a tap, raining all sorts of abuses on Nora.
All Nora asked Zenith was, "What went wrong? What did I do?" And the so-called Zenith could not say a thing. Nora got into her car and drove back to her house. This time around, Nora didn't cry. Something was bothering her, but she couldn't place a finger on what it was. Her brain was trying to tell her something, but her mind was taking long to catch up. Nora picked up her phone and went through Benita's social media page, and in a post done 2 years ago was the lady Nora had just seen at Zenith's house. The post was Benita wishing the lady happy birthday. From that day, Nora could no longer eat properly or sleep peacefully. Her heart was heavy with confusion and hurt. She decided to visit her grandmother, and the moment Rita saw her, she knew something was wrong. Nora poured out everything, from the fight at the market to Zenith's sudden distance to the betrayals and the strange woman who had appeared in his house. Rita listened quietly and then said firmly, "Nora, stay away from Zenith and stay away from that so-called friend." But did Nora listen? No. Soon, Benita called, crying and begging, her voice trembling. She explained that the woman who had called Nora was only a business associate, a seller of luxury men's clothes, shirts, shoes, watches, and accessories. According to Benita, the woman had asked for contacts of men who could buy from her, and she had only shared a few she knew, including Zenith.
Benita apologized profusely, begged and cried, and once again, Nora forgave her. At this point, one has to ask, is Nora loving? Is she forgiving? Is she naive? Or is she simply refusing to see the danger in front of her?
Because the storm around Nora was only getting darker, years had passed and Nora graduated from the university in flying colors. Her grandmother had started making arrangements for her to move to Canada to start her master's degree. In the meantime, Rita, Nora's grandmother, opened a fashion house for Nora. It was just something to keep her busy. One day, Benita came visiting her friend Nora, who had relocated to another city. She shared some interesting news with Nora. She was getting married. Nora was overjoyed. Nora didn't have a man in her life, so she simply told her friend that she would be leaving the country soon. Days after, Benita was still at her friend's house, and Nora really enjoyed having her there until one morning. Nora was about to leave for work, and Benita served her a plate of rice and stew. Not long after, Benita left saying she had to rush to the salon to braid her hair. Nora was about to eat when her phone rang and her attention was needed at the fashion house. Nora, who didn't like to waste food, immediately returned the content of her plate back into the pot. By the time she got to the fashion house, she was arrested. Apparently, one of her workers had completely gotten the style and measurement of bride's outfit wrong. Nora was only hearing what happened at the station. The bride demanded compensation, and Nora immediately made a transfer, and this took about 6 hours because the bride hadn't come to the station on time. Nora knew it was just an attempt to punish Nora. By the time she finished at the station, it was already 9 in the evening. Nora was finally handed her phone that was taken away from her, and she was shocked to see that she had about 100 missed calls. She started with Benita's number, and she was shocked to hear that she was at the ICU at the government hospital. Nora rushed there. She was surprised to see that her friend was critically ill. The doctor said the cause of her illness could not be ascertained, but that they were running tests. But Benita kept vomiting. At this point, Nora had called her people to let them know what was happening. Late that night, Benita started. He told me it will kill her. What is now happening to me? What have I done to myself? Benita said as she grabbed her stomach, screaming out in pain. Nora picked up her phone and immediately started filming Benita as she kept talking. Nora's hands were shaking as she listened to her childhood friend describe how a native doctor told her that if Nora ate of any food that the oil was sprinkled on, she was going to lose her life. Benita went on to say that she had hated Nora for years and had purposely slept with her boyfriend and also set him up with her friend. Benita went to state all the reasons she hated Nora and how she was rubbing the fact that she can easily leave the country in her face. Hours after Benita was no more, her people later came to claim her body. Nora returned home from the hospital, her heart heavy with grief. The grief felt unbearable, yet she knew she had to face her grandmother and make sense of it all. She finally sat down with her grandmother, Rita, and recounted everything: Benita's jealousy, the betrayals, Zenith's absence, and the deadly scheme that had cost her friend's life. Rita listened quietly, her face grave, but there was a calm strength in her eyes. "My child," Rita said gently, "life will always test your kindness and your trust, but never let anyone's wickedness dim your heart. Remember, it is wisdom that protects you more than love or forgiveness alone. Learn to see danger when it's in front of you and always value yourself first." Those words sank deep into Nora's heart. She took them to mind as she moved abroad to pursue her master's degree in Canada. There, she excelled in her studies, built a successful career, and eventually opened her own boutique fashion line. She became respected not just for her talent, but for the grace and wisdom with which she navigated life's challenges. Nora never forgot the pain of betrayal, but she allowed it to shape her into someone stronger, wiser, and more discerning. She had learned the hard way that love and kindness are gifts, but they must be paired with vigilance. Kindness and forgiveness are virtues, but wisdom and self-respect are what keep you safe in a world full of hidden dangers.
If you enjoyed Nora's story and the lessons it holds, like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because on African Folktales within Sinem, we share intriguing, heartwarming African tales. If you enjoyed this story, then you should click on this story on your screen. I'm sure you'll enjoy. See you there.